A coach's job, how to create an environment where every athlete wins regardless of talent. That's what I want to talk about today. My name is Eugenia-Bradshaw, and I've been coaching high school track and field for 16 years. And I'd like to share with you some of my strategies that I've used over the years to help create this environment. So let's get started. Before we get started, I want you to think about something. I want you to think about what or who inspired you to coach. And the reason why I want you to think about this is because I believe that no matter what we do in life, coach, whatever job that we always have to reflect on what got us there, what encouraged us, what stirred our passion. It could have been a certain person, a certain team, a certain way that you felt that pushed you in that direction. Because there's going to be times during your job or your coaching where you feel like, I'm tired of this. I don't want to do this anymore. And then something reminds you of why you coach and why you love it and what makes you passionate about it. Always keep that in the back of your mind. I'm going to share with you a few of the reasons why I coach. This is one of them right here. My family, my husband and myself, and my 5 children. I have 3 boys and 2 girls. Now, all of my children have been athletic throughout their life, middle school, high school, college. I still have one, luckily, in college competing, the one in the blue shirt there. He's playing football in college. And another one who's going on to the next level. Now, why I say they encourage me is because of this. While I was coaching, they were growing up and competing. And along the way, they had numerous coaches, numerous athletic experiences. Some were good, some not so good. They would come home and share these experiences with us. And there were times where they felt pretty terrible because they didn't feel like they were part of the team, or they just were not having a good time. But we were there to encourage them and tell them to move on, move forward. Right then and there, I thought, when I coach, I never want to make an athlete feel like that. I always want to make them feel part of the team. So this was part of the reason, or what inspired me to coach or helped me create my coaching style, is my own kids. Here's another huge reason why I coach and what led me or helped me develop my style of coaching. The man in the middle with the green circle. His name was Ed Kilkelly. I met Ed about 18 years ago at Sacred Heart Academy, where my daughter first started high school. When she first started high school, I encouraged her to join the cross-country team, which she hated, by the way, and later became a sprinter. But that's besides the point. During her high school career, I would go, or when she first started, I would go to school, pick her up like any other parent, and I would kind of stick around and observe the practice. And this is what I saw, or what I thought I saw. I saw this old guy with about 60 or 70 girls running around like crazy, laughing, joking, training, doing whatever they were doing. And I thought, what the heck is going on here? I don't understand this. But the one thing I noticed is that they were all happy. They all had a connection to each other, to Ed, to the team. He knew everybody's name. He knew something about them. Now, this had nothing to do with their talent or nothing to do with how good of an athlete they were, but he just had a way about him and created this culture, this atmosphere where everybody felt like they had a place. He would take girls that were terrible athletes and he would tell them if they couldn't run, oh, you're going to go throw, or you're going to go jump, or you're going to become the manager. Whoever was on the team, he gave them a place to feel like they belong. And that was so inspirational to me. Moving forward, I volunteered to coach alongside of him. And then soon after, he retired. He hung around, helped me out, and taught me so many things. So that's where I got this inspiration, this feeling of, I need to create that atmosphere. I need to create the culture. And this is why. because as high school coaches, we all have we have quite a few things in common, but one in particular, and it's a problem. Now, regardless of what sport that you coach, soccer, lacrosse, basketball, track and field, football, tennis, we all have something in common, and it's a problem. We all face this one thing. We are presented with a group of athletes on a spectrum of athletic talent, some that are way up here and some that are way down here. And now we're faced with a problem to create this winning team, winning on the field. And we have this group down here that are not athletic at all. They would require a lot of time for us to coach up. And we have this group over here that if we coach them, we know we're going to have a winning season. We know we're going to have a winning team. What do? We're conflicted. We feel like if we spend any time with the athletes down here, it's going to take away time from there. But we feel like we have to create that winning team. We need to win. The athletic director wants us to win. The team wants to win. But at what cost? What cost would we, or what would happen to those athletes down here if all we do is concentrate on the athletes up here? And that's the problem. The spectrum of athletes, the problem of us wanting to win and having this group of athletes that we feel would take up too much time if we brought up to this level, or if we could even bring up to that level. But what are the consequences? What are the consequences if we ignore these athletes down here and all we do is concentrate on the athletes up here? This is what happens. We sacrifice team culture because now all we're doing is paying attention to the elite athletes, the ones we know are going to bring in the points, and ignoring those athletes down there. We are reinforcing a negative message to the less talented athletes. Just imagine how they feel. All right. Imagine being that high school kid who goes to practice every single day, but the coach doesn't know your name. You're not getting any playing time. You're barely getting any reps. And all he or she is doing is concentrating on these athletes. You go home, your parents say, how was practice? It was all right. Oh, don't you have a game coming up? Don't you have a track meet? Yeah, but you don't have to come. I'm not going to play anyway. So what happens to that kid? They can't feel very good. Now, remember, these are high school kids. These are developing kids. Psychologically, they feel like crap. Knocks down their confidence. They could quit the team and never try out for another team again. What's the other thing that could be a consequence of this? Favoritism. All right, so we have these really great athletes up here. They know they're good. They know they got their spot. They're a little bit cocky, but that goes along with the, with the talent. And they know no matter what they do, they are going to get a starting position. No matter what they do, they're going to be on that A relay. Fast forward, they graduate high school, they go on to a big D1 program. God forbid they get hurt. What happens? All their confidence was wrapped up in their talent. And that's all they would think about. Now they're just another number. They're on the sidelines. What happens to their self-confidence? So we're really not teaching them life skills. These are things that can affect them later in life. And as coaches, I believe that we need to recognize that and take responsibility. So the things that we will sacrifice are team culture, a negative message for the less talented athletes, and showing favoritism for the elite or the talented athletes, which really isn't doing them any favors in the long run. So here's the other thing. So we have this problem with all these athletes on the spectrum of talent, the really good ones and the ones that are not very good at all. And we need to win and we're conflicted. But why does winning feel so important to us? Why do we feel like as coaches we have to win? Social media, Twitter, Instagram, school newspapers, all the announcements, the chatter that goes around the school because the football team went undefeated. But behind that, what's going on? What's going on with the rest of the team? We feel that we have to win because we feel the pressure from maybe athletic directors, from social media, and we want the attention as coaches. We want that pat on the back. We want to feel, yeah, we did a good job. Yeah, we're a good coach. And it's all wrapped up in the number, the scoreboard, how far we got. And it's a conflict and it's pressure. And what can we do about it? What's the solution? Well, I'm going to share with you some of the strategies I've used over the years to help create an inclusive winning team. And these are 3 things we're going to talk about. Team culture coming first, athletes setting individual goals, and how to treat everyone fairly, but not equally. And we'll talk about what the difference is. And we want to make sure our athletes know the difference between fair and equal. First, we're going to talk about culture. How does culture help create that team where everybody feels part of it, where it's inclusive, where no matter what your talent is, you feel part of that team? Whether you're the kid who probably would never get in on the field, will never be part of that A relay, or the one that is always in the starting lineup, the one that's always on the field, because you want to teach them team culture also. You want to teach them how to work together. And this is how we do it. But what made me realize this? I'm going to tell you. COVID made me realize this. Not COVID itself, but what happened, the circumstance. Now, before COVID, this is how I felt about my team. I felt we had structure, togetherness, leadership, communication. Now, of course, there were problems. It wasn't 100%, but for the most part, I felt pretty good. We had our ups and downs. But like I said, for the most part, I felt like we had a pretty good team culture. COVID happens, bam, there's a shutdown. Everything stops. Can't have practice, no competition, everyone scatters. We try and keep them connected through text messages and Zoom, but it's not the same. Now we start to come back. We start to come back and have limited practices and limited meets. But I noticed something. I noticed there was a difference. There was no structure. It was chaotic. We were lacking leadership because our captains really couldn't do anything, and they weren't doing anything because they didn't feel connected and no one was really listening. And there was poor communication. If an athlete came to a meet and they didn't show up to practice, it was okay. Because as a coach, I couldn't ask. I couldn't say, oh, why did you miss practice? Just because of the circumstance. Or why didn't you come to the meet? It was everybody had a feeling of, as long as the kids are outside, as they're training, they're getting back to some sense of normalcy. But for sure, there was a difference. And that difference was the team culture was lacking. At the same time, I was reading this great book, High 10 by Martin Rooney. It was about team culture. It was about a football coach who goes back to his college where he won the championship, and he gets the head coaching job, and he wants to create a team culture, but he doesn't know how really. He thinks it's all about just winning. And he meets someone who helps him, his old coach, who helps him create that team culture. While I was reading that book, this was at the same time when the shutdown happened and we were coming back, and this quote hit me right in the face. I thought about it. It said, a great culture stands for the vision, a weak culture falls for anything. And I felt like, wow, that makes so much sense. Our culture fell to the wayside because we couldn't implement any of the things or the strategies that I had been using just because of the circumstances. So I needed to start over. I needed to start new and create that team culture that I know that works. The first thing that I had to do, and most coaches should do, is realize that we are the conductor of our team. In this slide here, there's a conductor, and he's facing the choir, he's facing the musicians, and if you notice, his back is to the audience. His back is to the audience because the audience is watching who? Watching the choir, listening to the music. They're not paying attention to the conductor, but he's conducting them. He's telling them what to do. He's creating, helping them or directing them on what to do. just as coaches, we need to help our athletes, instruct them on what our culture means. We are not the culture, the team is the culture. And that's where it starts. It starts with us. Now, you think, okay, culture starts with me. I'm the coach. What do I do? Where do I start? I'll tell you where I started. I started with a motto, a saying. Now, it can't just be a bunch of words that you throw down on a piece of paper or a t-shirt and, and just think, okay, that's our culture. It has to be deeper. It has to be more than that. So what I do, I create the motto, and our motto, I'll use our motto as an example. My motto is trust the process. And this is a picture of my team wearing a bracelet that I had made that says trust the process. Now, it's something that I give out, not in the first week or not in the second week, just thereafter when everything settles down. Because if I just give it to them in the beginning, it means nothing because they don't even, it's just a bunch of words. So what I have to do is create the meaning behind it before I give out the bracelet. And that's our motto. And that's where we're going to start to build our team culture. So if you come up with a motto, you have to understand what's behind it. It can't just be, it has to have meaning to you and to the team before it actually becomes your culture. What's behind my motto? Trust the process. I found myself saying this to when I coached 16 years ago, trust the process. It's a process. We need values. We need standards. We need expectations. And I found myself explaining this to, at the time I was coaching all girls, now I coach boys, explaining this to my athletes, what it meant. Values, what we stand for as a team. Standards, our standards of operation. What time do you have to be at practice? What do I need to wear? What's the meet schedule? What are you running? Where do I have to be? The everyday things that we just take for granted that if our athletes didn't pay attention to, everything's chaotic. So if everybody knows where they're supposed to be and what they're doing, that's part of the culture. Then there's expectations. Now, the expectations are going to hold everybody accountable. My athletes know what to expect of me. I know what to expect of my athletes. They know what to expect of each other. Now, think about it. No matter what kind of talent you have, no matter what kind of athlete you are, you're all connected by this culture, by this motto of trust the process. And this is something that you live every day of practice for the entire season. It's connecting them, and it levels the playing field. They all have the same bracelet. They all have the same motto. So no matter who, my A1 athlete who's top in the state to my athlete who probably can't even run a 32-second 200, which is pretty bad for a high school boy. But regardless, they're on the same playing field because they're holding each other accountable. Are you on practice? Are you on time for practice? Oh, you're not supposed to be wearing that to meet. We all need Holy Trinity gear. Where is that? You have the wrong colors. So you find when you teach them what it means, they start talking to each other and holding each other accountable, which is a great thing. Now you have something to work with. Now you're creating culture. Now, culture is the foundation of their team. We've established that. Now I'm going to show you on this slide over here. This slide was created by John Wooden, a famous basketball coach. Went to the NCAA championship 12 times and won 10 of them. Now, culture is nothing new. I didn't recreate the wheel. This is something that's been around for years and years. This pyramid of success that became very popular amongst many coaches was developed by John Wooden. Now, if you notice something on the bottom, the foundation of the pyramid, it talks about industrious, friendship, loyalty, cooperation, enthusiasm. Those have nothing to do with skill level, conditioning, or any kind of athlete, what kind of athlete you are. These have to do with character. So if you think about developing the character of your athletes, moving up, and then the skill level comes later, if you look, it's on the third tier, you are strengthening your culture. You're creating the foundation of your team. And that's what builds a winning team. Again, this is leveling the playing field for all of your athletes, your culture. Now, other ways culture can level the playing field. Like I talked about before, it holds me or you, the coach, accountable. It motivates the less talented athletes to contribute. If one of your athletes, who's one of the less talented athletes, tells one of the really talented athletes, hey, you need to wear, like I said, you need to wear the right sweatshirt to the meet. Coach wants us to wear this. He's telling this other athlete something to do, and that athlete will respect him. Oh yeah, I forgot. You got anything extra or something like that? They're connected and they're all held to the same standard, which is also creating a fair environment. They all have to follow the rules. Now, there are exceptions to the rules. We know this, and that's up to us, the coach. But for the most part, we want to create a fair environment and hold them all accountable. And they hold each other accountable, and they will hold you, the coach, accountable, because they'll remind you. They will remind you, trust me. What are some of our key takeaways from this, creating a culture on a team to help alleviate this problem of coaching these athletes on the spectrum of talent from up here to down here? Well, number one, culture creates inclusivity. It makes them all feel part of something. Isn't that what teenagers want? Isn't that what high school kids want? They want to be part. They want to be part of a team, part of a club. It makes them feel good. It creates connection. You'll have athletes up here teaching athletes down here a skill. There are days when I'm really busy running around and I'll have one of my really good athletes say, Josiah, can you teach John how to use the blocks? Can you help him with his starting? So now they are connected, number one, and this athlete over here is learning leadership skills and they're learning cooperation. So it creates all kinds of character traits that you don't even know until it's happening and unfolding right in front of your eyes. It also motivates all the athletes. The athletes on this end of the spectrum will feel part of the team. You'll see them start to root for the winning team. Imagine this for a second. Imagine the team on the field is winning. The athlete on the bench who never gets in, the one with no talent, never gets on the field, never gets a rep, just sitting there, taking up space. The coach barely knows his name. You think he's going to be happy? Do you actually think he cares so much? I'm sure he wants them to win, but he can't be too excited. But imagine this, the same athlete who is given a chance, who is coached, who the coach knows his name and has a connection. Now his friend, who he's created a connection with, one of the better athletes, is on the team and he's scoring. He's going to start rooting. He's going to feel part of that win. So culture motivates all athletes. Here's something, a very simple strategy that I've used over the years to set individual goals. Now, the start of the season, everybody assumes we want to win. Whatever your sport is, all athletes, oh yeah, we want to win. But as a coach, do you actually know what their individual goals are? Probably not, because we can't read their minds. We just assume they want to win, right? Because that's what teams do. They win, or they try and win. This is what I do. This is me addressing my team. Now, I don't do it in the first week. I do it about the second week, and I tell them what I'm going to do. I tell them they're going to write down 3 things. It's very simple on an index card. Why are you here? What motivated you to come out for this team? Why are you here? What's your goal? What's your individual goal? And what do you need to do to achieve it? So right away, I know why they're here, and I get all kinds of things. And this is one thing I always do. I say, please be truthful. I don't care if you say you're here to make friends. I don't care if you're here because you say you got cut from the soccer team. I don't care, whatever it is, just be honest. Tell me, because I want us to all be on the same page. What's your individual goal? What do you want to work for? Because I can help you get there. That's why I'm here. Now, it's not going to be like I'm training this kid individually and just working towards his goal, but I can definitely help him. Say he wants to improve his start. Well, I know on the days that I work in blocks or starts, I'm going to pay a little extra attention to him or her. And I may have one of the better athletes who's got a really good block start, help them out. And the other thing is, what do you need to do to achieve that goal? What do you need to do? What kind of work do you need to put in? First of all, they have to show up to practice every day. Okay, so you're making them accountable, and you have to put the work in. And if you're having a problem, talk to me about it. So right there, we're creating connection, we're creating a community. They feel like they belong. And when they do start to get better, they feel good about themselves. So now they feel more confident. And that confidence is going to go into other areas of their life, into school, into making friends, all kinds of things. So there's this thing called the Pygmalion effect. And it happens all the time when we apply it like we do, with intention, when we want to help our athletes reach that next level. We can either be positive or we can be negative. Now, the Pygmalion effect is this: a psychological phenomenon in which high expectations lead to improved performance in a given area. Okay, so now you have your athletes give you an index card with their goals on it. They've written down their goals, and they may have felt even kind of shy about writing down their goals, or thinking that, oh, coach is going to think there's no way I'm going to get to this goal. But they did it, and they wrote it down. They shared it with us, and now we know the goal, and we can help them get there, because we say to them, you want to break 23 in the 200? Yeah, I think you can do it. Let's do it. This is what you have to do, X, Y, and Z. So we have a positive reaction to whatever their goal is, and a higher expectation. So therefore, it's going to affect their behavior, affect how they feel about themselves, and their performance. We're raising them up, because as coaches, we're there to raise our athletes up, not to take them down. Again, the index card: why are you here? What is your goal? And what do you need to do to achieve it? And the great thing about these, I like to keep them till the end of the season, and then we can go over them. And it's really great when you say, hey, you wanted to break 22 in the 200. Guess what? You did it. So then they think, wow, I can achieve my goal. And they feel even better about themselves. Now, if I only put energy into setting tangible goals with my better athletes, what's going to happen? This is the flip side of the Pygmalion effect. I might experience the golem effect. Do you ever see this guy on the sideline standing back, and you see a coach screaming or reaming an athlete? It makes me very uncomfortable, and it makes me want to run up to him and push him away from the athlete, but I don't. Or you've seen it on YouTube or on social media. I find it really uncomfortable, and I can only imagine how that kid feels. Imagine if that's your kid. Imagine if that's your cousin or your best friend's kid. How crappy is that kid feeling about himself right now? What's the golem effect? It's a psychological phenomenon in which lower expectations placed upon an individuals, either by supervisors or the individual themselves, lead to poorer performance by the individual. In other words, very simply, if that coach is telling that athlete, you can't do that, you suck, how do you think he's going to feel about himself? Especially a teenager. There's such formative years. If you bring that athlete down, if you bring that teenager down, middle school teenager, whatever it is, even college, it doesn't matter. They internalize that, and it can bleed into other areas of their life. And we are coaches to level them up, not to bring them down. So always keep that in mind. Now, are there times as coaches where we just lose our temper or we say things, but we can always apologize, and we can always go back and explain the situation. But for the most part, we want to be positive, and we want to raise our athletes up, not bring them down. So what are the key takeaways from having our athletes set their individual goals? Have formal goal setting process. So very simple, hand them the index card. Each athlete sets a realistic, tangible goal. Sometimes you might have to adjust their goal if you think that there's no way, or maybe you can talk to them about achieving it next season, and that is a process, and we'll get there, but we might not hit it this season. So you can adjust it. and help or try and coach each athlete to their goal. And as a coach, and I understand this, we don't have a lot of help. We don't have a lot of assistance, some programs, but you do the best you can. And this is where I find using the more talented athletes to help the younger athletes comes in really handy, and it teaches lessons on both ends. I've done it, and I do it every single season. What's the third strategy I want to talk about? Well, we've spoken about culture and how that creates a level playing field. We've spoken about creating or having athletes write down their individual goals. Now let's talk about treating everyone fairly, but not equally. Now, some athletes might not know the difference. What's the difference between fair and what's the difference between equal? And you want to make sure that they understand this. This was a quote I found by Tony Dungy, an NFL coach who coached for about 13 years. I need to treat everybody fairly, but fair doesn't always mean equal. What does that mean? What's the difference between fair and equal? I'll tell you. All right. Fair. Fair is they all deserve a chance. Even this athlete who's in a very not great start, I'll just tell you, they're not going to be on my A reel is what I'm telling you. Now, the athlete on the other side in the green, he happens to be one of the top sprinters. He was actually this past winter, the top 55-meter runner in the country, and he's only a sophomore. He's got, 10, 11, and their football offers, full rides. And he is one of my top sprinters. He's 100% an elite athlete. Now, am I going to treat him the same as I'm going to treat the other runner who's in a very bad starting position? Are they going to be on the same relay? I don't think so. That would not be a good thing. But does that athlete deserve a chance? Does that athlete with very, very little talent, and I can tell just by the picture, I don't know them, by the way, but does that athlete deserve a chance? Yes, and that's what fair is. Equal would be me putting that runner on the same relay with this runner just because they deserve a chance to be on the A relay. But fair is by giving them a chance or letting them prove themselves if they can hit a time. Now, obviously, they're not equal to him, but in talent, but like I said, they definitely deserve a fair shot. Now, how do we do that? This is what I do. I have time trials. Now, a time trial, a couple weeks into the season, once we get everything settled, I say, hey guys, we're gonna have a time trial. Now I have a starting point. Now, obviously, my A1 runner, who I know, no matter what he hits, even if he's not going out 100%, I know what he's gonna hit. And I know what his potential is. But the other athlete, I don't know. And you may get some surprises. Now, those athletes, they're getting a chance to prove themselves. They get excited, they get nervous because they're having a time trial. Oh, coach is I'm gonna get a starting, I wanna try for that starting spot on the A relay. They're excited about it. And there's a lot of chatter. Oh, and I'm gonna beat you and you're gonna beat me. Now, if you don't have track and field, you can do scrimmages, whatever your sport is, soccer or basketball, football, whatever it is, you can hold scrimmages. Some other ways, what I do is I use low-level meets. We have what's called development meets where teams in our league go to a school during the week, and they're not officially timed. The coaches do hand times, but they're low-level meets, and that's where you can kind of mix up the relays and have some fun and see how they do. But all athletes are on the same playing field. They're running to see how fast they can go, but it's at a lower level. And then there's always athletic stats. I can graph my athletes' progression from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, or from last season to this season. And then statistically, I know, wow, they're really progressing. Wow, I might have a diamond in a rough, because don't forget, here's the other thing. Some athletes are late bloomers. So you never want to disregard an athlete just because they're not at the same level as the other athletes. There are plenty of late bloomers. And there's also athletes that I found are game players. You put them on the track at a time trial or a low level meet, and you're like, wow, where'd that come from? Just something about them. They're game time athletes. So how does this help them? It creates opportunity for competition. And again, it's a level playing field, and it's giving those athletes a chance to prove themselves, and they feel like they're part of the team. So what are the key takeaways? We're giving all athletes a chance. Be willing to make changes, and there's always exceptions to the rules because that's what a coach does. And it impacts team culture. So remember to always, that's treating them fairly, but not equally. Even though they're not at equal talent, they deserve a chance. And that's what fair is, giving an athlete a chance. In closing, what's our job as a high school coach? It's to create an inclusive winning team. And what's the problem that we're dealt? We're dealt a problem that we have, no matter what sport that you coach, we have athletes on a spectrum of talent, some elite and some that can barely put one foot in front of the other. And we're expected to win. We are expected to win. We're expected to win because we have pressure from social media, from our athletic director, perhaps. We want to bring positive attention to our school, to our program. We want to get to the next level as a coach, so we want to win. What do? How do we solve this problem? Well, the solution is this. We create an inclusive winning team. We can do both ways. Number one, team culture comes first. We build from the bottom up. We build our foundation and then up, where all our athletes are part of that team culture. And the cream rises to the top. Athletes set individual goals. When they set individual goals, they feel like, hey, coach knows my name. Hey, coach knows what I want to achieve. And when they do, believe me, they come tell you, hey, coach, I hit a 12.5. I know, that's great. Look at, we're working really hard. This way, it gives us a chance to compliment them, and they feel good about themselves. And the third thing is treat everyone fairly, but not equally. Give a kid a chance, whether it's in a low-level meet, a scrimmage, athletic stats, give them a chance so we can treat them fairly. Doesn't mean they're going to be a starting, on the starting lineup or on the A relay, but they have a chance and they'll work for it. If you remember one thing, remember this. Coaches don't create culture with a motto. It's established with people and leadership. Our words and actions are powerful tools that can create an environment where every athlete wins regardless of their talent. Thank you.